Hey, I bet you weren't expecting this kind of video. So yeah, I mean, well, first of all, you might be wondering, wow, the image is a lot more clearer this time. Well, that's because I'm using my actual digital camera. Like I have a Lumix F300, FZ300 or something like that. But however, I couldn't use it on OBS because, I didn't have a proper what's the term? What's the proper term? Like the proper I didn't have a good I didn't have an adapter. Like I didn't have anybody connected to a computer. Now I do. Uh, so there's that. Um, and I'm still testing it out. This is still going to be evolving over time. Um, but I figured what better way to test it than by doing a sequel to a video that every one of you guys just love. Regardless, so yeah, this is part 2 of that. I will also do a part 2 of the top 10 movies I like that everyone else hates. So there is that. But however, I will say this go round, this will not be this is not ranked. This is not a ranked list. I mean, it's really an alphabetical order because it the it gets too complicated. Because for example, in my previous video, there are movies that I would have switched around. Like I probably would have put Freddy Got Fingered even higher because I've started to enjoy that movie even more. But regardless, regardless of all that, regardless, if I like a movie that you don't, or if I don't like a movie that you do, that doesn't invalidate my opinion, and if you disagree with me on a movie, that doesn't invalidate your opinion. Like, let's just all be civil. Let's just all be civil and, have more of a discussion as to why we don't like movies that everyone else likes. Because that's the thing about film. Film is art. Art is subjective. And so, yeah. Regardless, yeah. Now we're going to start with my first pick. I guess, like I said, this is in alphabetical order, so this will be the first movie, and everyone's gonna love what I have to say about this. The first pick is Blade Runner. Not Blade Runner 2049. I actually think Blade Runner 2049 is a masterpiece. Now, granted, I don't hate the first Blade Runner. I don't hate it, and there are definitely some good things about it, like Jesus Christ, the visual effects for the 80s are just fantastic. Like they still look good today. And I'm still surprised that a lot of this isn't, CGI. Like a lot of this was like models and shit. Like that is impressive. And I won't take the movie away from that. But overall, I just found the story to be dull. Everything just felt kind of dull. Which is weird because like Blade Runner 2049 was also very slow paced, but something about it was just more interesting to me. I just don't really know how to describe. And keep in mind, I did watch the final cut. As you can see the poster here, I made sure to watch the final cut, which everyone says is like the version of Blade Runner to watch. And I just couldn't get into it. I just could not get into Blade Runner. Again, not a horrible movie, not even terrible. I don't even like I just felt, again, I just found it kind of dull. So yeah, my second film, again, this is gonna be controversial. Boyhood. Boyhood is I really wanted to see Boyhood, and when I find, because it sounded like a really cool concept for a film. Uh, like filming a movie over the course of 12 years with the same actors as they grow up, and you're actually watching the characters grow up, like the real people, and that is pretty impressive. And I will say the performances across the board are all so good. Like Ethan Hawke and Patricia Arquette were phenomenal, especially. So I won't take that away from the film. Here's why I don't like Boyhood, though. Everything seems padded. Like, there doesn't really seem to be a reason. Like, there's no central, the film gets distracted so much. Like, this is what, 2 hours and 40 something minutes? Like, let me look up the running time of Boyhood. Hey Google, Hey Google, what is the running time for Boyhood?
Boyhood's running time is 2 hours and 43 minutes.
Yeah, 2 hours and 43 minutes. Jesus Christ, that is way too long for something like this. But not only that, it's like, how do I describe it? Like, a lot of the events in the film feel very inconsequential. Uh, like they just seem to be like individual scenes, and then they just move on to the next thing that's completely unrelated. And the movie kind of hell, there's there's a scene involving a stepdad. Yeah, there's a scene involving a stepdad, and this goes on for and this I don't know if it's really a scene or whatnot, but like he he's in the movie for a bit, and then at one point in the movie he's just not in the movie anymore. He's just not in the movie, and we never hear from him again. And I get what they're trying to. I get what Richard Linklater was trying to do with that movie, which was hey, in life, there are some things that happen in your life that come and go, and you never see them again. It's like, again, yeah, I get that, but I don't think it translates to film all that well. I don't feel like it translates well to film. It just feels because in a film there has to be like an actual narrative. That's the thing about, and that's one thing I don't like in movies is like when they don't really have a narrative. That they just kind of meander and just don't really do anything. I don't really care for those kind of movies. It's just like that's why I always call Moonlight the good Boyhood, like jokingly, because it also is about a kid growing up. Although granted, that wasn't filmed over the course of 12 years, but Moonlight was more special to me because it focused on the three most important events in the lead character Chiron's life. Like, it's not focusing on every single detail of his life, and it's just focusing on, in really a great 3-act structure, the beginning, like like his times as a kid, his times as a teenager, and his times as an adult, and in very specific time frames. And that makes them, by doing that, it gives the film more focus. And so yeah, that's why I really love Moonlight. And plus, not only I didn't get that from Boyhood. And plus, I will say with Boyhood, like it unnecessarily shoves in whatever year a scene takes place. Like there's literally a scene that is obviously from 2006 where this little girl is singing "We're all in this together." It's like, see, High School Musical is a thing in 2006. Or there's a scene where like the lead character, I forget the kid's name, uh, but the lead character says, I mean, I took my girlfriend to see, like my girlfriend doesn't even like the 3 best movies of the summer: Dark Knight, Tropic Thunder, and Pineapple Express. And it's like, get it? It's 2008. Those movies were popular in 2008, and the movie just becomes dated, and it just it just felt very dated and unfocused to me. Whereas with Moonlight, it was very focused. And yeah, in Moonlight you see like maybe someone pulls out a cell phone, but for the most part Moonlight is very timeless because it doesn't shove in your face whatever year this takes place. All that's important are the characters and the story. That's all that's important. And so that's why I couldn't really get into Boyhood and why I vastly prefer Moonlight. So yeah. My next pick for a movie that I don't like that everyone else loves: The Evil Dead, directed by Sam Raimi. Now, I will say, I do like Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2 I thought was a significant improvement, and I love Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness was like the crown pinnacle of what this franchise was capable of. The Evil Dead, however, like, here's the thing. Evil Dead, and especially, Evil Dead 2 and especially Army of Darkness, they went the more intentionally silly route. They went the intentionally stupid route. They went out of their way to be dumb on purpose. The first film, however, I feel like was done by accident, and the sequels just kind of went with it. Because it was very clear that when watching The Evil Dead, Sam Raimi was not an experienced director. Like, he didn't know anything about pacing or, cinematography or whatnot. And look, that's not just shade on him. That's like most first-time directors. Most first-time directors, especially, pre 2000s, you know, they generally don't have a sense of their direction yet. Hell, even Christopher Nolan, I don't feel like captured this in his first film in with Following. Uh, and he's my favorite director of all time. But, after Following, Christopher Nolan slowly got better at his craft. And I will say Sam Raimi also slowly got better at his craft. Even though I don't like the Spider-Man movies, aside from Spider-Man 1, I feel like Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 had good direction. The directing in those movies was good. It was really more so the writing that I thought was just ridiculous. But regardless, The Evil Dead, I just thought it was. I'm not gonna lie, I hated the first Evil Dead. This is one of the worst horror films I've ever seen in my life. And again, I must specify, I like Evil Dead 2. I really love Army of Darkness. It's just that first Evil Dead, I feel like it was a necessary obstacle for Sam Raimi to overcome so he could become a better director. Because, yeah, and like I said, it's rare for a director's first movie to be fantastic. Like, not everyone can be Jordan Peele. Not everyone can be Bradley Cooper. So yeah, I hated the first Evil Dead, but I will say Sam Raimi definitely got better as a director over time. Especially with Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness is still so funny. The next film on this list is a movie that came out this year, and everyone can't seem to shut up about it. And that is Godzilla vs. Kong. And so, yeah, this is awkward because weirdly not, like, everyone trashes, like, the Gareth Edwards Godzilla movie, the one that came out in 2014. And I think that was a masterpiece. I thought that was a masterpiece of, kaiju movies. It felt very different from the conventional kaiju movie. Instead of focusing on big, dumb spectacle, it was more of a tension-driven, almost like a sci-fi thriller, in a way. And I'm not saying dumb monster beat-em-ups can't work, but my main problem with Godzilla vs. Kong is that this is supposed to take place in the same universe as the 2014 Godzilla. The one where Godzilla, is this really slow, lumbering creature, and even though, yeah, technically he can fight kaijus, he's not really fast. Like, it's more like they come to him, and he just uses his weight to his advantage instead of speed and whatnot. And I thought the way they portrayed Godzilla in the 2014 film was really interesting. Like, he's not even really a good guy or bad guy. He's just an animal. He's just an animal trying to live life. And I thought that was a really interesting angle to take it from. And in some cases they portrayed him almost like a natural disaster. Like, even him coming out of the water sends tsunamis that just cover up an entire city. And that's what I loved about Godzilla. It focused less on action and spectacle, saved all of that for the end. It saved all of that cool action bits in the end for the end of the film. And most of it was just like, putting you, at the viewer, in the perspective of the people, having to deal with Godzilla and the Mutos and whatnot. I thought that was great. And I also really liked Kong Skull Island. It was very different from Godzilla, but however, at the same time, this was a completely different world with a completely different creature altogether. And I really, yeah, so I really liked Godzilla versus. I really liked Kong Skull Island. I didn't care that much for Godzilla King of the Monsters, although most people didn't. So, but everyone just seemed to love Godzilla versus Kong, and I'm not gonna lie, this, in my opinion, this was the worst one out of this bunch, because more than any of the other films, this broke away from what this franchise started as, especially with Godzilla. Because, like I said, in the 2014 film, Godzilla was the slow, lumbering creature, who had no real moral compass because he's just an animal trying to survive, and all that stuff was so cool. In this, they do away with all of that. For some reason, like, Godzilla can now jump and run and shit, and you'll punch fucking uh Kong or something like that. I don't know. Um like and for some reason now he's evil. For some reason Godzilla's evil, and he even makes this really like evil face, like and I was just like, why? Why? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Not to mention that the human characters act like fucking idiots in this film. Like all this human stuff is so stupid. And there's a plot device in this movie. I don't even really know if it's really a spoiler or not. I mean, let me see if I can pull up a spoiler alert. Yeah, alright. So yeah. Hold on. Yeah, once you see the spoiler alert thing go away, then you don't have to worry about spoilers. But I'm going to talk about something in Godzilla vs. Kong that I thought was really stupid. Alright? Alright. I really fucking hated that they had Mecha Godzilla. That was the dumbest thing they could have done for this movie. Like, and here's the thing. Like, if this were like Pacific Rim or something, alright, I could maybe buy into that. This is the same franchise that started with that. This is the same franchise as that 2014 Godzilla, which was pretty grounded in reality in terms of like science and whatnot. I mean, yeah, it's obviously about giant monsters, and obviously no animal could get that big, but it was grounded in a certain sense of reality. This just doesn't give a fuck anymore. I should probably, yeah. The first Godzilla felt so grounded in reality. And again, yeah, and I know giant monsters couldn't really exist, but regardless, it still felt grounded in some kind of reality. This just feels like some dumb Fast and the Furious film where it's like, oh yeah, nothing but dumb action, huh. And I've seen some people try to debate me on this, saying, well, what do you think Godzilla's supposed to be? I'm like, well, technically Godzilla never started as the Rock'em Sock'em Beat 'em Up movie, because the first ever Godzilla film, Gojira, was a lot like the first was a lot like the 2014 Godzilla, just a slow burn thriller, and about this monster that's pretty much a walking natural disaster every time he walks. So it's like, you can't really say that Godzilla has always been the Rock'em Sock'em Beat 'em Up type, because he hasn't. But even regardless of that, it doesn't matter, because this franchise, this specific MonsterVerse, didn't start off like that. Like, this did start off as a big thriller and whatnot. And yeah, I know Kong Skull Island was more of a Rock'em Sock'em Beat 'em Up thing, but it's also like, again, it was a completely different scenario and a completely different creature altogether. If they somehow managed to bring, or at the very least, if this is going to be like a beat 'em up film, keep Godzilla consistent. Keep Godzilla consistent. Don't pull, keep Godzilla consistent to how he was in that first Godzilla movie in 2014. You can still have Kong do his crazy shit, and also just don't bring in that thing that appears in the third act. I mean, again, I'm not going to say what it is, because again, it's a spoiler, but if you did, listen to my spoiler thoughts a few minutes ago, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just bringing in that element, I thought was so stupid and so disconnected from this franchise. And so, like, yeah, everyone loves Godzilla versus Kong, but I really don't see it. Again, it's not an awful movie. I'm not gonna act like it's like hell. I'm not gonna act like it's one of the worst things ever. Hell, I don't even think it's as bad as Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, even though I don't think that was terrible. I mean, although edges on the it edges on the verge of being terrible, but it's not as bad as Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom in my opinion, or Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. Um, Although maybe I don't know. Is this as bad as Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker? I don't know, but I just thought this film was just completely illogical and broke away from where this franchise started off from. But again, if you like it, alright, fine. But me, this was a letdown, definitely. The next film on my list is a movie that I guarantee you guys have never seen, and that is I Lost My Body, which is on Netflix. As you can tell by the little N there. Hey, see, I Lost My Body is was nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars for the movies of 2019. Like, this came out in 2019. This was nominated for Best Animated Feature alongside uh, Klaus, Toy Story 4, which I think that one won, Missing Link, and How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. And I Lost My Body was nominated alongside that. And I watched this movie and I was like if you don't know what I Lost My Body is about, it's basically like it's a two-way story about, sorry, popping my things here. I Lost My Body is about this dude. I think this takes place in Brazil. I think I might be wrong on that. Or is it French? No, this is a French film, I think. I think this is French. Yeah, this takes place in and basically I guess this it follows this dude growing up. But it's also the story about how his severed hand is trying to reconnect with him. And I don't see the appeal of this movie. For one, again, it's boring and slow, but also it's just so weird and tone deaf in the worst way possible. Like, sometimes it wants to be like this really straightforward drama and whatnot, but at the same time, there's also this weird story about this hand, and it's very off-putting. And I thought it it came out for me. It came out of nowhere, and not only that, but I thought how do I describe? And plus, another criticism I have about this movie is that it's hand drawn animated. I believe it's hand drawn animated. Um, but the characters are so expressionless. They have like no expressions whatsoever. Now some people are gonna go, well, you defended the Lion King for having for having characters that don't express much. Yeah, because it's supposed to, even though yeah, the Lion King remake is supposed to be an animated movie, it's supposed to look like live action. And if it's supposed to look like live action, then the animals can't emote, because that would, for one, be really creepy, as you would see in movies like Call of the Wild, where they do try to anthropomorphize the animals and it looks very bizarre. So not only would it look very bizarre, but it would defeat the entire purpose of trying to make it look like a live action film. This, however, is hand-drawn animated. This is hand-drawn animated, so you need bigger expressions. I'm not saying it needs to be like a cartoon or whatever, like something like Ren and Stimpy or something like that. But it still has to have some sort of personality in the faces. For a good example, this would be like The Breadwinner or Wolfwalkers. Like, those are hand-drawn animated movies that still have very vibrant expressions. This doesn't. This just feels very, very stiff. And it feels like the budget for this thing was so small. Like, it's just like, I just couldn't get into this film. I just really couldn't. It was so dull, and just, I don't know what this film's trying to say. It's very odd to me. But hey, it got nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, so I mean, someone out there likes it. So yeah. The next film on my list is definitely sure to piss everyone off. And I can't even believe I'm saying this, because if you were to ask me like 6 months ago, before I rewatched this movie, although I rewatched this movie maybe like a month ago, not 6 months. If you were to ask me like 2 months ago, if what my thoughts were on The Matrix, I will have told you, yeah, I thought The Matrix is great. But then I recently rewatched The Matrix, and because, Matrix Resurrections is coming out. Wow. This didn't age well, in my opinion. Not to say the effects, like the visual effects hold up phenomenally well. Like that's not what I'm talking about, but like man, it's like the Wachowskis had like the basic idea of this movie down, and some of the visuals, and like that's it. That's all they had in mind, because this film is just, for me, in my opinion, just not very interesting. It's not a very interesting film in terms of the story, and the characters are dull. They are really, really dull and boring, and I was shocked to really discover this. But yeah, they are so boring. I could other than Trinity, Neo, and Morpheus, I couldn't tell you a single other character's name. Like Jesus, they are so boring. And just lack any kind of personality. Again, it's really just more so, the it really does feel like the concepts are way more interesting than anything else in this movie. Uh, and there's even a lot of like symbolism in the movie, like symbolism that I feel like we're just kind of way too obvious. Like there's like the scene where like this dude says, "You're my savior, man, my own personal Jesus Christ." I'm just like, wow. And the fact that this guy's name is Neo. Oh, get it? Neo is an anagram of one, because he's the one. He's the one, and his name is Neo. It's like, again, it's just like, really? Like, this is not clever at all. Did fucking anagrams not exist in 1999? Just like, ugh. And honestly, this makes me even less excited for The Matrix Resurrections. Because because here's the thing. I already don't think The Matrix Resurrections is going to be that good to begin with. Because even if I did love the first Matrix, I'd still be concerned because people are already mixed on The Matrix Reloaded. If people hate The Matrix Revolutions, what is it? The Matrix Revolution? Matrix Revolutions? I don't know. Um, and people are very, very mixed on fucking, what is it called? Speed Racer. People are very divided on Cloud Atlas, and people just really hated their last film, Jupiter Ascending. Not to mention the fact that one of the Wachowskis didn't even want to direct this one because they thought that the story idea for this was not that good. So that doesn't give me any confidence. And so when I went back and watched this film and to discover, man, I actually don't like The Matrix to be like the first one. That makes me even more concerned because now I'm just thinking they just haven't done anything that spectacular. They haven't made anything that great. And so, yeah, I'm very concerned about The Matrix 4. I don't see why everyone's so excited for this. Um, Regardless, yeah, I just don't think The Matrix holds up well. Again, the visual effects are still great. They are still amazing. It's just, I feel like it's too drenched in the 90s for its own good, and it doesn't have memorable characters to back it up, in my opinion. So, yeah. The next film on this list is a movie you may have heard of. It came out last year, and that is News of the World, directed by Paul Greengrass, starring Tom Hanks. Again, I'm just like this because like everyone loved this film. Like it was getting like people were thinking maybe it could be nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. And having watched this film, I was really bored. I was really bored with News of the World. I mean, Tom Hanks, he's good as usual. The score was great. But man, nothing about this film excited me. Like, for one, the story of this film, oh, this guy discovers a girl who was raised by Native Americans, and he has to save her or something like that. And it's just like, what? It just, I don't know. This felt like a movie that would have been made in like the 70s or 60s or something like that. And it's just like, it was just very boring. So it's not fresh, exciting, or anything. Um, what was it like? I thought the weirdly enough, I think this got a cinematography nomination at the Oscars. Like, let me look it up because I'm pretty sure. Hey Google, News of the World Oscar nominations.
News of the World's nominations include the Academy Award for Best Cinematography for Dariush Volsky in 2021 and Golden Globe Award for
Wait,
Best Supporting Actress, Motion Picture for Helena Zengel in 2021, among others.
wait, because like, yeah, it got nominated for Best Cinematography. I thought it didn't really deserve that in my opinion because again, it just looked very, very, very dull in my opinion. Um, uh, and I don't know, like I don't. It's really hard to describe. Oh, yeah, and there's also like some scenes where it's like whenever like there's even some scenes where like they try to use like CGI in the background or whatnot, and it becomes very apparent that there's CGI. Like I swear to God, I think there's like a pile of something. I don't know if it was like a pile of pigs or hide or bags or something like that. I don't know, but it was very apparent that it was just not good CGI. And here's the problem: like if something like Avengers or Star Wars or something like that, like I already know going into those movies that there's gonna be CGI. Uh, for me, the real thing is when you're trying to do invisible effects, like invisible CGI, like, oh, you didn't know that this was like stuff like small things in the background. Something like this becomes like CGI in a movie like this become way more apparent when it doesn't feel like it's trying to be that kind of movie, and so it just makes it feel cheap. And it's just like, I don't know, but yeah, I didn't like News of the World. I thought it was, again, like I said, I thought it was just very dull, very unimaginative. This feels like a movie that should have been made in the 60s or something. Um, so, yeah. And this is bound to really piss people off because this was the big Oscar darling of 2020, and that is Nomadland, the this year's Oscar winner for Best Picture. Um, Yeah, I was looking forward to Nomadland because everyone was talking about, man, I heard the reviews. Everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, no, like Nomadland's amazing." It started winning like it was winning Best Picture at like every ceremony. Like it was like not to say that the Golden Globes really mean anything. When especially considering the recent controversies, but Nomadland won Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture Drama for that. It won the Critics' Choice Award for Best Picture. It won the Producers Guild for Best Picture, and the Academy Award for Best Picture. Chloe Zhao, you kept winning Best Director and whatnot, becoming the second woman in Academy history to win Best Director and the first woman of color to win Best Director at the Oscars. Best Director, and I, I just couldn't get into this movie because sort of like Boyhood, there's not really a central narrative. It's just Frances McDormand going around and stuff. There's no plot. Now, I will say, she's amazing in the film. She gives one of her most natural performances I've ever seen from her. She's great, and I don't, and I'm, and yeah, She probably wouldn't have been my choice to win Best Lead Actress, although my choice, Sydney Flanagan for Never Rarely Sometimes Always, didn't get nominated. But again, I have no complaints over Frances McDormand winning Best Lead Actress. But again, it's just a very boring film. There's nothing for me. There's just nothing to this movie. It's just meandering. It just goes on, and it's just like, okay, just do something of substance. And Nomadland doesn't really do that for me. Um, and it's a shame because like this is like the movie that everyone loves, and but I just like I gotta call it as I see it. I just don't like Nomadland. I just thought it was really really boring. Um, and which kind of makes me sad because like Chloe Zhao is also directing is also directing Eternals, which is coming out next month, and I'm looking forward to that because I'm hoping yeah, I'm hoping that even though I wasn't big on Nomadland, hopefully this one will be better. I'm hoping, but yeah, that's the shame about this. Hell, I think this might be, I'm like, because like let's see, I've seen every Best Picture winner since 2009, from The Hurt Locker to Nomadland. I've seen every Best Picture every Best Picture winner from then to now. Not to say that those are the only Best Picture winners I've seen. Like, obviously, I've seen Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. I've seen Titanic. I've seen, Chicago, all that stuff. But I'm just talking about, like, in a row, from The Hurt Locker to Nomadland. This is probably the worst one of the bunch, in my opinion. Like, this is probably, like, the one I like, hell, I think it might be the only one I didn't like. Like, maybe second to this would be, maybe second to last place would be like Birdman. But even then, I liked Birdman. I mean, I didn't love it, but at least I liked Birdman. But yeah, didn't really care for Nomadland. Again, if it worked for you, that's great. But yeah, I just thought for me it was really really dull. So yeah. Uh, my second to last pick, again because this is in alphabetical order, is the Terminator. Now, I will say this: Terminator 2 Judgment Day is just as good as everyone says it is. It is a fantastic sequel, one of the best sequels ever made. Terminator 2 Judgment Day has amazing effects, great action, great character development, great music, great tension, everything that the first Terminator did not have, in my opinion. Like, again, I honestly thought the first Terminator was kind of terrible. I thought it had terrible effects, very weird acting, very weird characters, and not in a good way. No tension whatsoever. It just, like, again, this felt like a director's work in progress. Because again, I really loved Terminator 2 Judgment Day, but yeah, I just did not. It's I don't like. It's just there's also some really obvious foreshadow. Like okay, I don't know. Like the way that the end of this film tries to sort of tie in with the beginning, I thought was very dumb. I thought it was like, oh god, really. Um, and Sarah Connor's progression from where she begins the film to where she ends feels very sloppy, in my opinion. Again, way better in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, but it's just, I don't know, there's just something about the first Terminator that just doesn't, nothing really feels earned in this film. And plus, I gotta say, like, the romance subplot, Jesus Christ, it's so out of nowhere, so dumb, and it's just like, I, I, like, I get that oh wait, this was supposed to happen all along, but it's just like, I don't know, the way it was portrayed, the way everything was written about that romance subplot, I thought was very dumb, in my opinion. But hey, what have you. But again, I really did like Terminator. I thought Terminator 2 Judgment Day was fantastic. And I haven't seen a single other Terminator movie except for um, Dark Fate, which I also didn't like all that much. Although I wouldn't say it's as bad as the first Terminator, in my opinion. Oops. So, yeah. Take that for what you will. And my final pick on this list is for the movies that I don't like that everyone else loves, X-Men. This film, in comic book movie history, this film has its place. It did drive comic book movies to be taken more seriously, and there are definitely parts of this movie that I think are fantastic, like the opening in Auschwitz is legendary. That is maybe the best scene in any X-Men film, in my opinion. Hugh Jackman is obviously a fantastic Wolverine. Patrick Stewart's a great Charles Xavier. Ian McKellen's a great Magneto. All that's yeah, there are lots of great things about this movie. The problem though is that I don't think it aged well because in many other respects, this film, uh, again, just hasn't aged well. Like, for one, the effects are just not good. Like, they're just not good at all. There's maybe, a couple scenes where, Mystique transforms into somebody. That's kind of cool. Um, and I think there's, this one Senator character. He goes through this weird transformation. I thought that was pretty cool. But a lot of the other scenes, I just no, no, and also or even it's not even just the effects. It's also just the action is so boring and bland. Like, Cyclops, all he does is just go, bzz, bzz. Like, it's just not done in an exciting way. Hell, I thought the newer X-Men movies where they had, what's his name, Cyclops, X-Men Apocalypse, and X-Men Dark Phoenix. And granted, I think Dark Phoenix is a worse movie than X-Men, but I thought they handled the Cyclops action way better in those movies than this. Because again, he just feels so static in this film with his lasers and whatnot. And Storm is also very boring in this film, and oh my god, the villains can be so dumb. Mystique, alright, she's fine, but then there's Sabretooth, and I'm just I don't really get anything out of him. Toad is the fucking worst. Toad is just an embarrassing character, from the makeup to the effects to just everything. He does, even this weird ballet thing he does in the middle of a battle, and it's just that weird shit. It's just why? And there's a bunch of really dumb lines in this movie. First, there's this rivalry between Wolverine and Cyclops, and it feels so unearned. Now, I've heard, yeah, they were like that in the comics, they clashed heads in the comics, but in this film, it doesn't feel earned. It just feels Cyclops and Wolverine don't like each other, so we have to have them not like each other, and it's just like that. It's oh, okay, so we're but yeah, so, like I said, this film has its place in comic book movie. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention also this really dumb line during that same Toad scene where he's facing off against fucking Storm, and she's like, you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing as everything else, and shocks him. I was like, what? Those kind of dumb again, X-Men, the first X-Men has its place in comic book movie history. It did help the genre become more mature, and again, it features the one of the best scenes in comic book movie history with the Auschwitz scene. Like again, that is powerful. But I don't feel like it aged. I just don't feel like it ages well. I feel like a lot of the other X-Men movies, tackled the issues that this movie tackles way better, in more interesting ways. So yeah, that about does it for my list of the I guess my part two of the top 10 movies that I don't like that everyone else likes. Again, this wasn't really ranked. This was just an alphabetical order. But as I always say, if you like these movies, good on you. That's no shame on you for that. Like, because again, like I said, film is subjective. It's like we're not supposed to agree on everything. If you like these, because here's the thing, I don't like disliking movies. I don't like disliking movies. I want to like every movie that I see. It just so happens I don't. And like I said, I will do a list after this, of like a part two of the top 10 movies I do like that everyone else hates. So, yeah. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. What are some more of the movies that you don't like or that everyone else loves? So yeah, just go ahead and do that. And consider subscribing to the channel and whatnot. And yeah, I think that about does it for this video, guys. Hopefully, I want to try to do more uploads in the future. So yeah, I guess bye.